Since elementary school, our daughter Karen has had a best friend, Paula. I swear I can claim her as a dependent since she spends most of her time here. I bet she sleeps here at least 4 nights a week and eats here 5 days a week. They share clothes, shoes, and sometimes boyfriends. In the spring of senior year, my wife Tammy asked Paula what her plans were, and she said she had signed up for veterinary courses at the same local college as Karen. The only problem was that she had just found out that her mother was moving to Texas to take care of her aunt, who had cancer. So now Paula was looking for a job and an apartment. Paula was always a good help when she stayed here. She cleaned the kitchen, vacuumed the floors, helped with laundry, and did everything her wife asked. Tommy didn't have to think long, and she asked, "Do you want to live here and be a housekeeper? We'll give you room, board, and $150 a week. Is it suitable?" Paula hugged her, tears streaming down her cheeks. That evening, when I returned home, Tammy told me what she had proposed to Paula. She looked smug and asked me, "What do you think?" Honestly, I think Karen will be furious when she finds out that we pay Paula $150 a week. Maybe if Karen did something at home, things would be different, Tammy said. Her room is a complete mess. If Paula or I don't clean up, the mess doesn't stop. She doesn't even wash her clothes and scolds me if the clothes she needs aren't washed. She says she's looking for a job, so she doesn't have time to help around here or clean, but almost every McDonald's I see has "Help Wanted" signs posted. True to my predictions, Karen exploded. For the first week or so, she actually did something, but then gradually, everything went back to the same old way. Paula started working on the 1st of July. The day Paula moved in, Karen welcomed her with open arms. I wasn't sure if it was because of their long-standing friendship or because there was now someone to do the housework for her. It was my birthday in the first week of August. Nothing special, we just fried up some burgers and chips and had an ice cream cake for dessert. After dinner, we opened gifts. I received a couple of shirts from my wife and a movie pass for 2 from my daughter. There was a postcard from Paula. It simply said, "Happy birthday, Tom," from Paula, and a heart. I was puzzled, but I simply closed the card, put it back in the envelope, and put it in my pocket. After dinner, we took the dishes to the kitchen, and Karen and Tammy went into the bedroom to talk. I was putting dishes in the dishwasher, and Paula was doing it with me when she leaned closer and whispered, "Someday, I will have a special gift for you." I was puzzled by her words. Paula and I were just finishing up cleaning the kitchen when Tammy came in looking upset. I asked, "What happened, dear?" "Your daughter has decided that she wants to go to college in Sacramento and live with her grandmother in Rancho Cordova. She wants me to go with her and check out the school. I need to arrange flights and car rental. Why does she always bombard me with news like this at the last minute?" I called my mother to find out the details firsthand. "There's no need for a rented car," Mom said, "because my little Buick is free. I know it's 6 years old, but it only has 35,000 miles on it. Mom also told me that Karen needs a California driver's license, and to get it, she needs proof of insurance with her name on it so she can get residency rates for college." Karen was very excited and busy checking colleges online, but Tammy didn't want to send her daughter to a college she didn't know. I asked her, "Darling, if you think so, why don't you fly there with her and check out the college yourself? This way, you can help Karen register and see her grandmother. You know how much she cares about you both." Tammy ordered tickets online for next week. The 2 of them were busy packing and preparing for a girls' getaway, while Paula and I kept the home front. On Thursday evening, we took the girls to the airport. On the way home, Paula sat next to me while we listened to satellite radio. Paula attended summer classes and went to school almost every morning at 7:30 and stayed there until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, depending on the day of the week. Then she came home and cleaned up. I have to say that our house has never looked cleaner. On Friday, when I returned home from work, I said to her, "How about I invite you to dinner?" Paula squealed in gratitude and hugged me tightly. I asked her, "Anything or some special place?" She looked and asked with a smile, "Could we go to the Ivy Fountain?" I thought for a minute because this place does have some pretty expensive food, but it's excellent, and I haven't been there for a long time, so I said, I'll be happy to take you if there's room. I called the information desk, got a number, and found out that we could come for dinner at 6:30. Give me 20 minutes to get ready, Paula said. I shaved and put on a nice white shirt, tie, slacks, sports jacket, and loafers. I walked out into the hall and Paula was wearing one of Karen's dresses, only she filled it out much better. Her breasts stuck out in front, and the material hugged her body so tightly that it was easy to see that she was wearing nothing underneath. I felt a little awkward taking this sexy young girl out, but when she asked, "Are you ready?" "I'm looking forward to it." I felt like I was back in high school. I took her hand and headed to the restaurant as if on a date. As we walked through the restaurant, men cast envious glances at us, and women cast disapproving glances. After we sat down, the waiter brought out a bottle of wine and asked if we would like a glass. Paula said, "I'd like a Riesling, please. Can I see your ID?" I almost shit myself because I knew that she was only 18, but Paula started rummaging in her bag. The waiter said, "Okay, since you're looking for it, I'll bring it." Then he asked me what I wanted, and I said, "Bourbon and water, please." Taking Paula's hand, I whispered, "What would you do if he wanted to see your ID?" She grinned and fished out her driver's license from the bottom of her purse, where her date of birth had been changed to show she was 21 years old. Shaking my head, I said, "You are a very naughty girl. Don't be upset with me. Karen has it too." I swallowed. "Karen? What else don't I know about my daughter?" Paula smiled and said, "How about we just enjoy each other's company and dinner? We'll have time for this conversation another time. Have you ever been here before?" After looking at all the paintings, tapestries, and European decor, she sighed and said, "I came in." Puzzled, I asked, "What do you mean?" She continued, "My freshman year, Brent Johnson asked me to the prom. His older brother told him that this was the right place to impress girls. Brent invited me here for dinner. We ordered Coca-Cola and talked about school, friends, and teachers. Then the waiter came over and asked if we were ready to order. Brent told him we needed a few more minutes. He opened the menu, and when he saw the prices, he almost shit himself. He opened his wallet and counted how much money he had. I think he could barely pay for the cheapest food. He looked at me. "Sorry, I didn't know this place was so expensive." I put $10 on the table to cover the Coke, and we left. "I'm really sorry. I can only imagine how embarrassed you both must have felt. For tonight, I don't want you to look at the prices. Is it clear?" She smiled from ear to ear. When we got home, I made myself some bourbon and water and watched the news. I heard Paula working in the laundry room where the washer and dryer were running. After the news ended, I texted Tammy and asked how things were going. She replied, "We just returned from dinner. Your mom knows the best place for ribs." I took the phone with me to the bedroom and got ready for bed. I usually only wear nylon boxers to sleep, and tonight was no exception. As I lay down, I wondered what else our daughter had done that we should know about. I wondered why my wife always gave in to her. I thought it was fathers who spoiled their daughters. Shortly after midnight, I thought I was dreaming. It seemed to me that someone had climbed into my bed. A soft little hand slid over my shoulder, then moved to gently caress my breast. Then the hand turned me onto my back. My mind wasn't sure if this was a dream or reality. Then the figure slid towards me. At first I thought that Tammy had somehow returned home early, but when she lay on top of me, her firm breasts and flat tummy puzzled me. It was Paula. She was naked and pressed against me. I started to say something, but she put her finger to my lips, shaking her head. Paula kissed me deeply, our tongues gently playing with each other. I ran my hands up and down the soft skin, exploring the body. "Do you understand this is a one-time incident?" Paula smiled and said, "Well, Tammy won't be back until Monday. We have a whole weekend ahead of us." I hugged her and said, "Tammy won't understand that we're making love. She would say that I am cheating, and she will get a divorce. Either that, or she'll make my life so miserable that she'll convince me it's not worth it." Paula smiled and said, But you don't have an ace up your sleeve yet. What are you talking about? Paula looked at me and said, I promised I wouldn't tell unless it was absolutely necessary. My curiosity was killing me, and I asked, Do you have anything on Tammy? She smiled and said, Maybe, and with a wide smile she sank down on me and made me perk up. She lay down next to me, spreading her legs wide apart, and pulled me towards her. We fell asleep hugging each other. I fell asleep wondering what it was that Paula had with my wife that made her think she could have sex with me and not worry about Tammy. Soon I heard the sound of my phone telling me that there was an incoming message. It was Tammy telling me about their route in case I needed it, and that she would see me early Monday morning. I couldn't get it out of my head that Paula probably knew about Tammy. It had to be something terribly incriminating. I got dressed, went to the garage, and changed the oil in the car. I was going to change the spark plugs and wires, but I was having a hard time concentrating. I gave up and went back into the house to get something cold. Later, an angry Tammy called me. I spent the whole day running back and forth between the licensing department, the local office of our insurance company, and the college. What really pisses me off is that I found out that this could all have been faxed through our lawyer. I'm sitting here drinking a strong vodka tonic and planning on having another one. Our daughter is a royal thorn. Honey, you can handle it, I told my wife. I felt terrible remorse for playing with Paula and went for a walk in the park. This should have been relaxing, but I kept thinking about what Paula had started saying. And what did she have for my wife? When I saw the clouds turn orange from the setting sun, I knew I better go home. When I walked through the front door, the smells filling the house were a pleasant surprise. I went into the kitchen, and the food wasn't the only shock. Paula was wearing only an apron. She leaned over the roast in the oven, giving me a clear look at the dessert. I gave her a wolf whistle and said, Dinner, of coursey, smells good, but I see what I want for dessert. Paula turned and winked at me, saying, Oh, I'm sure your wish will come true. She served me a delicious dinner of roast pork with carrots, mashed potatoes, and gravy with homemade biscuits. She kept her apron on while we ate, which I found very sexy. Paula and I washed the dishes together, but I had a hard time keeping my hand away from her cute ass. When the last of the dishes were dry, she took off the apron and hung it on the oven door. When we left the kitchen, she took my hand and asked, Isn't it too early to go to bed? Just looking at this 18-year-old hard body made me tense up, but I said, We need to talk first. I don't know why, but we continued walking and ended up in my bedroom, sitting on the bed. Trying to be serious with her, I said, I need to know what you have on Tammy that makes you think you can get away with sex with us. Otherwise, I'll have to cancel it, no matter how much I enjoy playing with you. Paula raised her voice slightly, saying, But I promised, and yet I need to know. She sat for a few minutes thinking about it, then took a deep breath and said, You know how Karen always gets her way with her mother? I said, Well, that's something I've been thinking about, especially lately. Paula continued, Remember Harold, the old retired widower who lived a couple doors down, the guy with the pool? I said, Yes, I remember him. He died about a year ago, if I remember correctly. What does he have to do with it? You know that Tammy went down to him from time to time and swam. Well, they had an affair. What? I exclaimed. A couple of years ago, Karen and I came home early from school and saw her sneaking through the side gate towards his pool. We changed into suits and decided to join her for a swim. As we were about to open the gate, we heard her moaning loudly. We looked outside the gate and saw her with this old pervert. This was almost a year before his death. Paula looked at me and said, That's not all. On the day he died, one of the neighbors said they overheard the paramedics saying he was in the middle of sex when he died of a heart attack, and another neighbor said they thought they saw Tammy running from the backyard just before paramedics arrived. Tammy convinced them that she was at the mall at the time. Someone made an anonymous 911 call from his home, but whoever it was changed their voice. Technically, this is a criminal offense. I couldn't believe my ears. I had a hard time coming to terms with the fact that my wife was cheating on me. It felt like a punch to the stomach. even though I had just cheated on her with Paula. I told her, "Honey, I think I need some time alone to process all this. How about you go to your bed tonight? Please." Paula kissed me on the cheek and said, "If you change your mind, you know where I am." I lay in bed, unable to sleep. I continued to stare at the ceiling, replaying various scenarios between my wife and old Harold. Heck, he was probably 25, maybe 30 years older than us. Yes, when we were alone, he bragged about all the women he slept with when he was younger, but I never imagined him sleeping with mine. Tommy worked as a cook for the school district, and her work hours were until 2:30, which meant she had free time to do as she pleased. In the morning, I was woken up by a quiet knock on the door. It was a little after 8 or so. Paula was holding a cup of coffee, and I needed it. She came over and handed it to me. Taking my free hand in hers, she said, "I'm sorry I told you about Tammy. We promised her that we wouldn't tell anyone about this, especially you." "So, she knows that, you know?" "Well, after we saw them on the diving board, Karen and I kept going back and taking pictures of them. Karen has a whole collection of them doing this in different places and positions. She used your Canon with a telepoto lens. One day, when we wanted to go to a party and Tammy wouldn't allow it, Karen told her she'd tell you about Harold. When Tammy asked what evidence she had, Karen went to her bedroom, printed out a couple of photographs she had, and brought them back. After 10 minutes of screaming, Tammy sat down and cried. She said Harold told her how beautiful she was. He then asked her if she would let him take a photo, and she thought it would be fun. From there, it progressed to nude photos, and then one day, he suggested they go skinny dipping. And then one day, it just happened. Karen and I felt like she was hiding the truth, but we didn't pay attention to it. Karen hid several flash drives with these photos in the house in case Tammy went looking and found one. I thought for a minute and said, "The problem is that now that I know, her leverage over her mother is gone, isn't it?" "Oops." Taking her hand again, I asked, "So what do you know about Karen?" Swaying a little on her feet and closing her eyes a little, she said, "Karen had a reputation at school for being, frivolous. And the real reason she wanted to go to UC Sacramento was because of Johnny, the guy she has a crush on. She says he is the best lover she has ever had." I just shook my head and said, "Like mother, like daughter." When I finished my coffee, she took the cup from me and, putting it on the nightstand, pounced it on me, kissing me forcefully. There was this little hard body wanting me, and I had this knot in my stomach from finding out that my wife was cheating with the neighbor. As Paula began to kiss me, moving lower down my body, all other thoughts seemed to disappear. After a hot morning, we showered, and I took her to the IHOP near the mall. After breakfast, we went to Victoria's Secrets, and I bought her several sets of sexy lingerie. The saleswomen looked at us quite intently, an elderly man with a young girl. I really enjoyed it. One of the saleswomen asked Paula, "Is this your father?" Paula whispered in her ear, "No, he is my lover." They both giggled. When we got home, I mowed the yard and tried to clear my head of Tammy and Harold. I mean, this guy was older than her father. Why on earth would she have an affair with him? What was I supposed to do? Having finished taking out the trash, I headed to the shower. I opened the back door and saw Paula. She was wearing the new lingerie we bought along with these tall red high heels. Having made a pirouette in front of me, she asked, "Do you like it?" "Very," I answered with a wide smile on my face. Right now I need a shower and clean clothes, and headed to my bedroom to undress and take a shower. I was lathering my hair, soap running down my face, when I heard the shower door click. I reached for the door only to find Paula had entered the shower. She took my hand and held me tightly, and then rubbed my scalp with her long nails. It was so nice. "Rinse your hair," she said. I did as she said. She then asked me to turn around, which I did. She lathered my back and ran her nails down my back, scratching as she scrubbed. I tried, but I couldn't remember the last time Tammy and I took a shower together. The more I thought about it, the more we've grown apart over the past 5 years or so. Sex between us became more and more distant and almost mechanical. I wondered if that was when the affair with Harold began. We took a long shower, soaping each other up and rubbing our slippery bodies together before rinsing off and drying ourselves off. I wasn't ready for bed and asked Paula, "Do you know where one of the flash drives is?" Throwing a thoughtful look at me, she said, "Tom, are you really sure you want to see them together? I actually asked her to join a swingers club a few years ago so I could watch her with another man. And maybe play with another woman. She said I was a pervert." Paula thought for a moment and said, "Sex between consenting adults sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe you could take me with you sometime. Is it true? Would you like it?" Her eyes widened and a smile filled her face as she nodded. She left the room and asked me to meet her at my computer. In the office, I turned on the computer and waited for her to return. Soon, she returned, dressed in new underwear with a flash drive in her hand. The folder opened, revealing hundreds of photographs. When I saw Harold's size, I could hardly believe my eyes. After watching as much as I could stand, I saved the file to my computer and turned it off. I went into the living room, turned on the news, and tried to relax. Paula made us hot tea with whiskey. When we finished, she picked me up from the couch and led me down the hall to the bedroom, threw back the covers, and climbed into bed, motioning for me to join her. How could I say no? We made love a few more times that night before we had to go pick up Tammy on an early morning flight. Tammy stood and waited for us. After packing her luggage, she plopped down in the front seat and closed her eyes. We drove home mostly in silence. When our city appeared, I asked her, "Did everything go well?" Shaking her head, Tammy said, "That daughter of yours, I swear, made me buy several clothing stores because she needed clothes for college right now." Then, as soon as we pulled into the garage, she asked, "How did it go?" Visions of making love to Paula raced through my head, and I knew better than to keep my mouth shut. Then I thought about her and our neighbor and said, "You know, Tammy, you won't have to be at Karen's beck and call anymore." She looked at me puzzled and asked, "What do you mean?" "Honey, you don't need to play coy with me." "I know what she used to blackmail you," I told her when we got out of the car. Tammy gave Paula one of those looks that could kill, and then she walked up to me and asked, "What did she tell you?" I suggested we go sit in the living room and finish this conversation. The three of us entered and were about to sit down when Tammy said, "Tom, I need wine, no whiskey more." I almost told her to take it herself, but didn't. I looked at Paula and asked, "Riesling?" She smiled and nodded. I made them drinks and brought them. Tammy drank about half of her drink and then said, "Harold was such a nice old man. I came and used his pool. It was good exercise. He sat by the pool and sipped his drink. He made drinks for me too. He always told me how beautiful I was. Then he persuaded me to buy a bikini. I never thought I was bikini material, but he insisted. It made him so happy. He grabbed his camera and said he wanted to take some pictures. I thought it was quite cute. Didn't I tell you that you are beautiful? You should have. You're married to me." She continued. He made me pose in different places around and in the pool. He used floats and balls as props. He then started positioning me by first untying one of my bikini strings in some of the photos, then the lower one in others. It progressed to topless, and he eventually talked me into posing nude. It took a little time, but he made me feel so beautiful. That's where our romance began. I knew it wasn't fair to you, but it was an itch that needed scratching, and only he could scratch it. The day he died was very bad for me. He had just put chemicals in the pool, and we couldn't use it, so we decided to play in the house. I didn't notice when he started making strange sounds. Just when I finished, I looked down and realized that he wasn't breathing. Damn, I killed him. I grabbed his phone and started calling 911. Then I thought that if I did that, they would find out about me, and I didn't want you or the neighbors to know. I ran around the house, wiping all the doorknobs and the phone, even the toilet handle. I put his underwear back on him and covered him up, then ran into the kitchen and grabbed some marshmallows, stuffing them into his cheeks. I then put a pillow on the phone and called 911, saying the person at that address was having a heart attack, and then slipped out the back door. Will you ever be able to forgive me? I didn't know what to say. Hearing it from her was harder than hearing it from Paula. Paula didn't go into detail like Tammy did. Tammy tried to take my hand, but I pulled away first. Seeing that this was overwhelming her, I reached out and took her hand to calm her down. Through tears, she said, "I assume you want a divorce." Not knowing how to phrase my next sentence, I thought for a moment before answering, "Honey, for the last 5 years or more, our sex life has really gone downhill. It was almost non-existent, although I did not know that you were cheating on me. Remember I asked you about visiting the swingers club?" Tammy nodded. "And what did you answer when I asked you about this?" She lowered her head, looking at her lap, and said quietly, "That I cannot share you with another woman." "That's it. You told me you couldn't share me with another woman, and you had sex with an old man." Tears rolled down Tammy's face, and I said, "You know, have you ever thought about telling me that you want him? What might I like to watch you do?" Her tears stopped, and I had Tammy and Paula's full attention. Tammy looked at me and said, "You mean you're not going to file for divorce?" "I'm still thinking about it, but there will be some changes in our house." "Which?" "You need to move all your things from our bedroom to Karen's room." "But Paula is there." I stood up, walked over, and sat next to Paula. Then I told Tammy, "Paula will move her things to me." Tammy stood up and shouted, "You mean you and Paula?" I stopped her and said, "Would you rather get a divorce and maybe go to prison?" "Oh, by the way, Paula and I are going to the swingers club. If you don't mind, you can join us." Tammy just stood there with her mouth open for a while and then went into our bedroom to start moving her things. It's funny how life can change over a weekend. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.